Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. Last week, we were talking about menopause being a potential reason why Samantha Jones was having her orgasm drought. And I rewatched the episode, and it was that Miranda's mom died, and it made her sad. She was like stifling tears. And then at the end of the episode, she cried. And that was the release she needed to move on. I also cried in therapy this week. I guess I needed to, but whatever. So my tear drought is over, and we will talk about the continuation of the O drought on this episode all about menopause with comedian Carole Montgomery. With over 24 television credits to her name, Carole Montgomery is a respected veteran of the stand-up comedy scene nationwide and starred in 2 different Las Vegas production shows. In her 10 years as a Las Vegas star, she was seen by over 5 million audience members, and now you're going to hear her today. She is also the creator and has starred in 3 Showtime specials for funny women of a certain age. She's fantastic. And what better time to do an episode on menopause because October 18th is World Menopause Awareness Day. How fun. So we're going to talk to Carole about how menopause was for her. And then she's going to give me an assignment to help me with my O drought. Woohoo!
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just...
Testing.
That's perfect.
Okay.
If it moves around, I'll just go like this.
Okay. I'm easy.
That's what I've heard.
If only
Okay.
that was all true. Anyway.
Oh, I am so excited. Welcome, Carole Montgomery.
Hi, Remy. How are you?
It's so nice to have you here. We were discussing last week with my sister that there could be many reasons why a person would lose their orgasm. And she said menopause could be one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not for
No,
me.
because you're 12. So
Because I'm 12.
and you're fertile. So
Yes. Oh, knock on wood. So I thought we would talk to somebody who's actually been through menopause before.
Uh-huh.
But before we get into that, I know you best from stand-up.
yes.
And from creating funny women of a certain age, which
Correct.
you guys, we have spoken about this on the podcast before because our friend Fran Drescher
Fran.
did her first ever stand-up set on funny women of a certain age.
Yes, she did.
Which
And
was,
look what happened. Now she's the president of SAG. You see, we call it the funny women bump. Seriously. 'cause
women supporting women.
Yeah, I mean, Lunel, who was also on the first special, she just released her first Netflix special. So it's the funny woman bump.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations to everybody. And congratulations to you for starting it. What was the reason behind starting Funny Women of a Certain Age?
Well, that's a great question. What happened is in our business, in stand-up, when you get to a certain age, you're just tossed aside. And I was reaching that age.
Mm-hmm.
I was 59 years old, and I was doing another podcast with another female comic. It was a bunch of us, and I don't remember the actual podcast. But we were just sitting around bullshitting, and we were having so much fun. And it was all older women. I remember going home and talking to my husband and saying, I have so many friends that are my age or older. Why don't we do a show like this? It was the only time in my entire career my husband went, this is it.
Yeah.
and it snowballed. And it basically, and I said, I wanted to call it Women of a Certain Age, and basically snowball from there.
Yeah. And what makes a woman of a certain age? Like, what is that certain age?
Well, for the TV specials, I wanted to highlight women over 50.
Okay.
Because that's really hard. There's not a lot, now, like since the show has aired, there's so many successful female comics over 50. Leslie Jones, Margaret Cho, Kathy Griffin, Sherry Shepherd.
Yeah.
But back then it was still kind of, it was already 5 years ago when it premiered. So it was 50 and over is considered a woman of a certain age. But I always joke, for the live show, we put over women over 40 now, because really in Hollywood, after 40, you're dead anyway.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So.
I've always had this feeling since I was 3 even that I was expiring because I was a ballet dancer and there was always younger, we want younger, better, cuter, whatever. And so I didn't even think you could enter into entertainment without expiring immediately.
Yeah.
So I think it's really inspiring to see you guys still doing it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. There are barriers, of course, with age, but specifically with women.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen more barriers with ageism or sexism in comedy?
Ageism. Like I actually have a line that I do on stage. If I had to choose between ageism or sexism, I take a pat on the ass because it meant somebody noticed me.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember walking one time. I was coming down. I was somewhere. Maybe I was going to Dangerfield. I don't remember. But I was walking and there were a bunch of men, older men, with younger women, and the look of disdain when I just walked by. I mean, like it was like, ooh, and I wasn't, and that was 10 years ago. And I remember thinking, wow, it's like wearing, for Harry Potter fans, it's like wearing an invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
People just don't notice you after a certain age. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's not going to happen
Yeah.
to me because I'm loud to begin with. I'm sure that if I was wearing the cloak, they'd be like, what's that noise? Why do we keep hearing an old Jewish woman?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's true. It's just I'm hoping that I am part of the change of making older women seen because it's been for so long. It's just been, if you're over 30, it's done. You're done.
You know what I noticed recently is when I am out on the sidewalk or whatever, if I get like a nod or a wave from a man, that is worth nothing to me.
Right.
Because men are attracted to the bar is low. But if I get a smile from an older woman, it makes my fucking day.
That's great.
I'm like, yeah, we're bonded now. And I hope she has a good day and she hopes I had a good day.
Well, but also one of the things I've been trying to do lately in general with women is like if I see somebody wearing, whether she's old or young, I always, if I like the outfit or I like her earring, I always go, you look great. You know why? Because especially in New York City, what you just said, we keep our heads down because we don't want that creepy guy. Hey, I think you're pretty.
Oh, where'd you get your dress? Well, let me tell you, Atlantic City Boardwalk, $12.
Exactly. And there was an outfit I was in. Well, I forgot what that. Nordstrom Rack, maybe I saw. So I saw something and I was like, oh, that's really cute. And this woman said. And I was like, oh, but this isn't going to fit me. And she says, oh, I saw a bigger size on the other. she ran over and got it for me. It was such a great female moment.
Yeah, no, one of my best days was I was at Target and I was trying on a top, like over my top, as you do when you're just not trying to go to a dressing room. And two older women were like, that looks good. You need to get that. And I was like, oh my God, like this compliment means more than anything ever. When I was younger, I didn't really care about shows like the Golden Girls or whatever.
Right.
I was like, who cares about a bunch of older women hanging out? And now I've binged the entire series. I'm even watching Golden Palace.
Wow.
Which I don't know if anybody listening knows existed, but they did a spinoff after B. Arthur left, where the three, Sophia, Blanche, and Rose, buy a hotel, run it with Don Cheadle and Cheech Marin.
Wow.
It is the most unhinged thing I've ever seen in my life.
Hysterical.
But I still love them. I'm still very invested in them. And I'm very invested in their friendships and what they talk about. And the show doesn't totally still hold up. They talk about weight a lot. They talk about attractiveness a lot.
Yeah. In defense of it being dated, that's what it was. But honestly, I totally agree with you. But there's still a lot of women that do that. That it's like, well, if I've become, over 50, I've lost all of my sexuality. I've lost my energy. Like even in Handmaid's Tale, the old women are the gray ones that are shoveling the shit.
Yeah. Because that's the only job.
But that's the only job.
If you can't make a baby, you got to shovel
make a baby.
shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they do have Sophia shoveling a fair amount of shit in Golden Palace. But if you watch Golden Girls, which highly recommend, it's so funny, it's so cute, despite it's not holding up in a few ways. But they're all sexually active.
Right.
Some more than others, especially Blanche. She is a very sexually active, vivacious woman through the entire of Golden Girls. It runs for 7 years. She's made every sex joke in the book.
Yep.
Like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do anything in stand-up because she's already said everything. And then in this first season and only season of Golden Palace, she announces she's in love because she had the big O for the first time.
Wow.
Which, what? Like, on the one hand, I'm like, how did she not have one up until this point? But then on the other, I'm like, I enjoyed sex a lot before having an orgasm too.
Yeah.
And I also think that Blanche is very into male validation.
Yes.
So that's maybe what most of her enjoyment, like that's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah.
But I was just so taken aback that she's having her first orgasm at maybe like 56.
That's wild.
And post-menopause.
Yeah.
Because they talk about menopause. But yes, she's having her first orgasm ever post-menopause, which it's not so far-fetched. We've had people on this podcast who had their first orgasm at 50.
Yeah.
I know of a woman who had her first at 70. So it's never too late. It is inspiring, but it is shocking for Blanche.
Yeah, you know what? That is, but the male validation was the whole thing for her. But you do realize, since we're talking about them, is that, you know, Sex in the City is basically the Golden Girls.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And they're all the same age now, too. Or like all the And Just Like That characters
Right.
are the same age as
Yeah.
the Golden Girls were.
Yeah.
But
And they were not that age. Like the age that they were portraying, I think they were like 10 years younger. I think they were in their 40s when they did the Golden Girls.
really?
Yeah, because Sophia
And
was the same.
Sophia was like the same age as
Same
everybody
age
else, but
as
they
everyone.
just put her in makeup.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is when was that show in the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
What they
10 or
thought
early
in
90s.
old women. That's why Blanche was such a great character, because
Yeah.
she was like, oh no, I'm going out and doing it. You
Yeah.
know? And that was a huge thing back then.
Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you stop dating. She's super inspiring. But then I was also thinking of maybe they didn't mention the orgasm thing until the later season or until the second show because female orgasms weren't discussed.
Well, maybe. I mean, you know, in general with stuff that, I mean, like we're talking about menopause, but that's a huge movement now.
Yeah.
Like if you go on Instagram, I mean, there's tons of people, you know, Naomi Watts has a whole line of menopause stuff. I actually just did a focus group for menopause driven, you know, stuff for women, like lotions and,
Ooh.
you know what I mean? So this has become, we didn't talk, we're talking, now we're really talking about it. But before we weren't talking about it at all. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's why they decided, we'll just throw in that, you know, Blanche finally had an orgasm.
Yeah. You had your first orgasm pretty early in life.
Yes.
When was that? How did it come about? Were you told what it would be like beforehand?
Oh, no.
Okay.
So my sexual education basically consisted of a pamphlet that my father brought home. He was a high school gym teacher, and he brought home a pamphlet. Like, you know, so I don't even remember. It was like, what is sex? And it was really like that stupid. Like, there was, you know, here's the egg, and it looked like a little egg, and then here's the sperm, and it was from, it must have been from the 20s. And so I had no idea. So when I was in the 6th grade is when I started to blossom. I have huge tits. You can't see that because we're on a podcast, but I had huge tits from the time I was 12. So when I was in 6th grade, I was already making out with boys and doing that and everything, because all the boys wanted to make out with me because they wanted tits.
Yeah. And you were like, well, whatever boys want, here you go.
Exactly. So when I was in the 7th grade, I was dating a guy, but he used to pick me up from school, walk me home and everything. He used to buy me my favorite chocolate bar. Like,
cute.
Right. And I remember being it was in my friend's house, I think, and we were in her bedroom, and she was making out with her boyfriend. I was making out with my boyfriend.
Oh my God.
And I think he wasn't touching me, but he was on top of me, and we were dry humping, and all of a sudden I went, what? In my head I went, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
And it was, and
that's amazing. I don't think we've had a dry humping first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just something I had no idea what was going on. I mean, all we were doing was making out and dry humping because we didn't know any. We were 12. I was 7th grade. We were 13 years old.
I did a lot of dry humping in 7th grade because that was bar mitzvah year, and it was vertical dry humping. It was grinding.
Really?
But it never amounted to anything. But
did you get turned
loved
on?
It. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. It was so
dry.
fun.
I wish I missed those days.
I
of
do
just
too.
making out and dry humping.
And it was
more
dry, like we were all sober too. Like it was dry humping.
Yeah. I loved that. That was so much fun.
Yeah. So after that, did you try to recreate it by yourself, or was there like a big gap in between?
That's a good question. That part I don't remember. I don't remember if I recreated. I do know that when I lost my virginity, it was just, terrible because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. But what I used to do, because he was such a terrible lover. I mean, we were in high school.
Yeah.
That I would make sure that I came before he even got to see, like if he was coming to visit, I was like, well, I'm going to be all turned on and he's not going to know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
So let's just do it now.
But did you ever try to recreate just dry humping with him?
No, the boy that I dry humped with was like middle school.
No, I know, but I'm
with
saying
him?
with the guy
No,
who was bad at
he was a terrible
penetrative
lover.
sex. Okay.
Yeah, no, he was a terrible lover.
So interesting to have someone so like sweet and good initially, and then like someone so horrible.
No, he was so bad. He was just, it was only about making sure he came. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I do remember like when he'd come over, and there was one time that I had done it myself, and then he came over, but I was still flushed, so he thought I fucked somebody else.
Hilarious. You're like, yeah, it was me.
It was me. It was Mr. Writing.
Yeah. How did you figure out how to do it with your hand?
You know what? This is actually a huge realization that I'm having with you. I didn't do it with my hand. That was a joke.
Oh, okay.
It was with a pillow.
Nice. The humping.
The dry humping. And so now that I think about that, that's why. That's the only, back then, now I, bells, whistles, but back then, that was the only way I could come masturbating was because with a pillow. And now I just realized. So thanks, Mike. Okay. That was his name.
That was the pillow's name? No.
That was the pillow's name, yes. Mike was the pillow. No, Mike was not that boyfriend that he probably doesn't even know that.
Was it a hard pillow or
I would roll it like into a ball.
Make it hard pillow?
Make it hard pillow.
Yeah. I've been thinking, I'm like, maybe like one of those Tempur-Pedic pillows for people who love humping.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
That could be a good idea. But it's so funny that you would do it beforehand, because I feel like the joke commonly is, oh yeah, you have sex and then the person leaves and then you do it.
Yeah.
But you were like, no, I'm just going to get it out of the way because I don't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was just going to be a couple of, grunts in and he'd be done. And I'd be like, what about,
Yeah. My favorite metaphor was from Molly Brenner's show where she's like, you go to a restaurant, you both order the meal. He eats the meal, yours never comes. And he goes, okay, we ate. Let's go.
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a great metaphor.
Yeah. So then after him, were you trying to find people who were a little more skilled, or were you like, this is my responsibility?
Wow. These are very interesting questions. You're making me think.
You're saying interesting things that are making me think of interesting questions.
Oh, okay. But I did a couple of one-night stands, but it was also, let's say, the way it is for me sexually is if I'm turned on, I can come immediately.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I always joke that I'm like a guy.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned that there's people of all genders that can do it immediately or not at all.
Right.
Or just take a long time.
Right. So I've never taken a long time. My husband still to this day is like, can you just maybe give me 5 minutes?
Oh.
Because I used to have a joke about this. The joke used to be that my husband would be like, when we make love, I want to make you feel like a woman. I'm like, I feel like a woman when I'm shopping. Put it in. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Because it's always been very easy for me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really search for, it's like I said, thinking about all the, the men that not so many men, but a few, either I was servicing them and there was never any of that thought to even do me.
Yeah.
So, when I met my husband and then he was great, it was like, oh, okay, we'll keep him.
Yeah. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to make it last longer for him? Have you ever?
I've tried, but
Okay.
I'm like, I think that's just my personality. That I think from the thing that I said that I had to make myself come before the asshole showed up. So I think that that's just the way it's always been.
It
for
trained
me.
you.
Yeah, because I have a very good friend of mine who's been with her, husband for years, and she's like, you should try the Kama Sutra and all these different positions. I said, I can't even fathom it taking more than 10 minutes.
So can you keep going though if you've already done it?
You mean for him?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Of course, I lay there like, could you just, are you done yet? I'm joking.
No. Are you able to have internal orgasms as well?
Now that I don't know about.
Okay.
So you're talking about, because it's usually the clit.
Right.
Right. So I didn't even know there was an internal orgasm.
Yeah. So technically all orgasms are clitoral because the clit goes really far back into the body and like rubs the vaginal walls, but it depends on where yours rests.
Right.
That penetration could make an internal orgasm happen too.
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah. My friend DM'd me the other day saying that she started having cervical orgasms, which I had never heard about at all. So I'm looking forward to diving into that with her.
Wow.
Yeah. But maybe this could be a fun thing for you to try and...
Honey.
Yeah. Time to go into the lab. Do some science. Okay. So you and your husband have a child.
Yes.
Was there any orgasm regression during pregnancy or post-pregnancy?
No. Nope.
And was there any feeling of, I'm going to be a less sexually viable person after pregnancy? Because I remember, and this is such a stupid reference, but it's one that really sticks with me, when Kim Kardashian was marrying Chris Humphries. They were talking about, what our life is going to be like after we get married, after we have children, whatever. And he's like, well, we're not going to be in the public eye anymore. Like, nobody's going to want to look at you as a sexual person if you're a wife and mother. Not exactly that verbiage, but that was the gist.
Okay.
And she was like, of course they are. I'm Kim Kardashian.
Right.
And I remember being on the fence at the time and being like, well, yeah, you're Kim Kardashian, but also, are we allowed to think wives and moms are hot? Like, I never wanted to even get married because I didn't want to stop being hot.
Right.
How do you feel about all of that?
Wow. That's really very good questions. I think that if we go into, like, when we were joking about the fact that now that I'm not fertile, I could be the one shoveling the shit.
Yeah.
And you have to really think that for example, I'm going to use you as an example.
Yeah.
You are young, you're beautiful, you're fertile.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things mean something to men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They want to sleep with you. But in the end, it's because you can carry their baby. For some men, once you have that baby, they feel like, oh, well, now she's a goddess now, and this whole area, the female area is no longer, because she belongs to the child now. But I think that's a very outdated view of what a woman is.
Yeah.
But
I think even the view of being like, oh, you're worth something because you can have a child, it's like, we're so much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because I'm starting to explore on stage this whole thing about what is it, so what about the women that aren't fertile? What about the women that can't have kids? That doesn't mean that they're not viable.
They're less of a person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I remember one time talking about how people feel uncomfortable because I was pregnant. Oh God, Lane's going to be 32. So 33 years ago, I'm walking around airports with a baby in a car seat going to gigs. Mm-hmm. I didn't even, I remember one time, this is how far we've gone because it's a little bit better, but I had, he was crying on the plane. So I started breastfeeding him and there was a guy sitting next to me and he took his newspaper and basically put it over his head so he couldn't.
Oh my God.
And it's like, okay, I know these are tits and they're sexy, but they also provide nourishment for my child.
And
so
I hope you suffocate under that newspaper.
Yeah, but that's the way men are. It's so much about this, I think, is women have had to live under this rule of men. even like in religion, for example, when a young girl in some of the more conservative religion is until she has her period.
Yeah.
She's walking around doing it. But as soon as a young woman has her period in some, in the Muslim religion and the Jewish religion, cover them up. So the question you're asking is like, then we have to change everything because we have been brought up that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think things are changing now, but I do remember that they would say,
right,
guys really struggle with boners and their blue balls and all that stuff, and they struggle, but you can't wear spaghetti straps because you're going to distract them. And
why is it our fault?
You can't breastfeed because you're going to distract them. But then nobody's taking into account that there's like a ton of people who aren't men that are also attracted to women that can control themselves. Right. But because we're in a patriarchy, it's in this lens of, well, you don't want to distract the boys. You don't want to turn the boys on. You don't want to discuss the boys. You don't and so on and so forth. So just having more bodily autonomy and having more equal rights, is better.
Absolutely.
But it also helps you determine, well, I'm still going to be sexy to me. Even if I've had a baby. Like that's something that I've learned more through this podcast is like, sure, it's nice to be sexy to other people, but you have to start with number one. Yeah. Were you always sexy to you?
No. Okay. I mean, I think being young, is I think I think we are not bred, but that's the wrong thing. But
socialized
to be to feel like shit. And then when you get into your 50s and your 60s, you're like, I don't care. I have nothing to prove to anyone anymore. And so to me, that's where my sexiness comes out because I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. I don't care if you think I'm funny. I really don't care. Yeah. Because I know what I can contribute to. But that's I'm 65 years old. So that's years of it. When I was in my 20s, my self-esteem was so low because that's all now I grew up. The big famous sexy person was Twiggy. Yeah. Twiggy. If you don't know who that is, if you think there's a reason why I have an eating disorder, it's because of, because that's what we were taught. You have to be thin, you have to be thin, you have to be thin. There was no media about being just a woman.
I saw a really interesting TikTok, and I'll have to fact check this, but it said that the sexualization of young girls came from the feminist movement. Okay. Because, women, let's say pre-second wave, were very booby, very hippie, like hips, boobs developed. And then women started being like, hey, we would like some rights, please. And standing up to people and asking for what they deserve. And certain men were like, we don't like that. So instead of using you to be our sex symbols, we're going to start advertising Brooke Shields and young girls who have not developed yet and saying that thin and no chest is what's sexy because then it takes the power away from women who have been developed.
Okay. I mean, the way you explained it, absolutely. I could see that. I could see that. But like even like when you bring up Brooke Shields and even, I mean, she was, how old was she? 12
or like even earlier, I think, when she started modeling.
Right. Yeah. Like the Calvin Klein ad.
Calvin Klein, she was like 15, but she started modeling, I think, at like 7 or 8. Yeah. And then that just being like, oh, well, it's all about like the young face and like the no body. Right. Because, there's Gloria Steinem out there with like a body being like, no, we're not just the body. Right. We can work. We deserve equal pay. Be nice to us.
Isn't it nice that nothing's changed? It's nice. It's very nice.
Ebbs and flows. But yeah, so we were talking about moms. You appeared on Funniest Mom in America. Yeah. And so were you able to retain feeling sexy throughout your pregnancy? Was there still sex going on? Was there masturbating going on? Okay, great.
But I what happens when you get pregnant is the first 3 months are terrible because it's like Build-A-Bear but inside. Yeah. Okay. So you're building this human being, And so you just, and it's, I was very, I used to work out all the time. I still do, but I remember that I used to do the Stairmaster because it was that when it first came out. And I used to be on it like 5 times a week. And I got pregnant. And like the next day, it was like torture. I just had no energy. But then the second trimester, that's when women are the hottest because everything is, the baby's doing its thing. Your hair looks amazing. Your nails look, your skin. I was like walking around. I did Evening at the Improv pregnant. I'll send you that.
Ooh,
I'll send you a picture.
yeah.
I look like I'm glowing.
Yeah. Glowing and then afterglow.
And yeah, seriously. But I felt very sexy, you know. And the thing, you know, what's so funny about pregnancy? Like I used to do. There was a comic named Bobby Gaylor, and he was also a dirty comic. And you know, I'm a dirty. That's what they called us back then, dirty comics.
Yeah.
And we decided to do an X-rated comedy team. And we were doing really well on it, and so he got us a gig somewhere out in Palm Springs, and we did the gig. And you know, and I was pregnant, and I was like pregnant, so after the gig, Bobby said, "I'll go get the money. You go sit in the car." And he said that the owner said to him, "Don't ever bring that woman back." He was so offended that a pregnant woman was talking about sex.
Oh my God!
Yeah. But that's my whole career, honey. Seriously, I mean, I have been told, "Don't talk about sex. You're a woman. Don't talk about sex. You're a mom. Don't curse. You're the," you know, and it's like. I've done it. I'm like, really? It's like,
but it's the same thing of don't offend the men in the audience instead of what about this is going to be really inspiring for other people that can get pregnant eventually. This is going to be really inspiring for other women.
Right.
They're not thinking about that because we didn't have any money and we still have less. But now we have more buying power. Look at what Taylor Swift has done to the economy.
Oh my God. Her and Beyonce? Are you kidding me?
Killing it.
I mean,
she also just increased the sales of Travis Kelce jerseys by like 400%.
That's hysterical.
And he got like 400,000 more followers just from dating her.
I should date her.
I would love to. Yeah.
But you know, it's so funny. It's so funny that you mentioned that because now the people on the right, now they're trashing the shit out of her because she's a strong, powerful woman.
Yeah. It's scary. But it's not scary for people who are like, really secure. Yeah. You know, none of the really secure men have been bothered by it. They're like, oh, great. You put Travis Kelce on the map for a few more people.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And she doesn't care. What's so funny about whenever they go after somebody like that, it's like, okay, what's going to happen? Maybe I don't even know how many. I know she's got probably close to 1 billion followers. So what are you going to do? Oh, she'll have less than 1 billion. Oh, she'll have, you know, 3 people will decide.
Well, her followers aren't leaving.
Right.
It's just like those people who already weren't interested in her
are already not
talking shit, and all press is good press. Okay, so when did you start menopause?
I want to say 50-ish.
Okay.
Because I've been, I mean, like me and my one of my closest friends, and she's in her 70s, we're like, oh, that's been in the rearview mirror for a very long time. I was, you know, I started probably doing perimenopause in my 40s. I remember, and this is so interesting. I love telling the story because, of course, it was a male doctor. So I was spotting a lot in my late 40s, and I would go to the doctor. And this is what my doctor told me, verbatim. Well, Carole, you know, you get into the age where you're like an old car and you're leaking oil. Oh. I swear to God, that's what he said.
I mean, that's what the color looks like when I spot. I've been leaking oil my whole life.
Yep.
But perimenopause it's like premenopausal.
Right. It's like sometimes you get a period, sometimes you don't get a period, but all the other stuff that comes with that, like the fogginess, the flashes, you know, there's, you know,
hot flashes. Yeah.
Yeah. There used to be, I mean, if you look it up, I think there's somewhere on the internet where it's like the 50, you used to just think it's like 5 things, but there's so many things that happen during menopause.
Yeah. I have a list.
Oh, there you go. I can tell you which ones I still have hot flashes, by the way. And I haven't had menopause. I haven't had a period in 15 years.
I have hot flashes every day, but I think it's because I'm on SSRIs.
Okay. Yeah,
so
it could
I'm just sweating all the time. Hot flashes, bone loss, heart disease, weight gain.
Yep. Well, the thing and women have talked about this. I used to have a waist. And when after I went through menopause, no, and now look, I like to eat. I'm not going to lie. I like to. So it. Yeah. But I used to be able to stop eating for like a couple of days and be down back to where I needed to be. So like I have a muffin top now, which I've never had before. Like I don't know if you know the comedian Maureen Langan, but she has a joke about they call it the menopause belly. She goes, "That's where I hold all my rage," which is such the greatest line. I actually think she did it on America's Got Talent, but it's a great joke. But like I have this thing that I never had before. Not that I ever had. I was never a flat. Like I had a waist. And my stomach was like, I had a nice little it wasn't flat, but it was, now it's like, where did this come from? Yeah. So that's the thing that I've noticed still I have. And so your body really does change.
But if you're secure with yourself at that point,
right,
it feels better than it would if you didn't.
Oh yeah. Oh no, because when you go, and then hair shows up in places you never thought you had.
Night sweats.
Yep.
Which I also have. Low mood, anxiety, some depression, and some people lose their orgasms.
Yeah.
So the menopausal transition most often begins between ages 45 and 55. And it usually lasts about 7 years, but it can be as long as 14.
Yep.
How long was it for you?
I want to say probably 5 years.
And I think there's also, I didn't realize this, that menopause is after the first 12 months after a woman's last period.
Right.
I thought it was like, oh, you stop having your period and then that's menopause.
No. Because you could still have it. Until it's 12 months, you could still be fertile.
Yeah, so stay on your birth control or keep using condoms or whatever. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I lost my period. Oh, it must be.
Right.
And then you end up having a late in life pregnancy. Yeah. Which could be a blessing, but also could be not the thing that you were intending to do. But so the length of menopause can depend on lifestyle factors such as smoking, the age it begins, and race and ethnicity, which I had no idea that was a factor either. It can present differently depending on your ethnic background. The average age of menopause for Indian women is 46.2 years, whereas UK average is 51 years. The New York Times says Black and Hispanic women reach menopause earlier than white, Chinese, and Japanese women. Symptoms vary around the world too. Women from East Asian countries are less likely to report hot flashes than women of European ancestry. And Black women often report longer menopause and more hot flashes.
Interesting. But it also, like, for example, so my sister, I think, got her period when she was 10. And she's older than me. I was going through menopause and she hadn't gone through it yet. So I don't know if it's because she had it early, and then I don't know, because like I had my period when I was about 13.
Yeah, you would think she was using up her periods.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. I want to take like a survey of all the women in my family of when their periods started and when their menopause started.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. It also, menopause can be brought on if you have hysterectomy.
Yep.
Which makes a lot of sense. And that is the removal of the uterus or the removal of the ovaries, which will produce hormones that will throw you into an early menopause. I think that's what happened to my mom.
Really?
Yeah. And then there are ways to treat your symptoms.
Right.
Some people don't do anything.
I didn't do anything.
They just ride it out.
Well, what happened is that so this is 15 years ago, right? Give or take. And at the time, all the hormone therapy stuff that they were talking about taking, both my mother and my aunt died of breast cancer. So I'm not. So it was, that was. We were told, do not take a pill. Like now they have like stuff you can put on your thighs, like you can have creams. There's a whole bunch of other things. But back then there was nothing. And I wasn't going to take the chance of taking something that was going to,
HRT is the hormone that can do it. But yeah, there were some studies that were like, that could lead to cancer.
Yeah.
And if you come from a family where that's You're not going to.
Yeah. So I was just like, fuck it. I mean,
Yeah.
I do remember one time. Like you'd have to ask my husband what he thought, because I have a different view of what he, because he thought I was crazy the entire time. Well, you know what I mean? Because it was just the mood swings, and I still I walk into, I go, where are my glasses? And they're on top of my head. Where's my keys? Where's my phone? It's in my hand, so all that stuff.
And that never happened before, because that's me today.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I think that's just ADHD.
Well, yeah, maybe. Or you may need a tracker on your phone when you start getting the menopause, because the fogginess is the one that you just like. And then, of course, now I think it's because now I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm having dementia, because now I forget something. I'm like, I'm getting close to dementia. And so it's like, it's so many things.
Mm-hmm. My mom, when she would have memory problems, I would use them to my advantage as a teen, which was so bad. But she would be like, oh, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going out to this party. She said, you're not going out to party. You said I could go.
Yeah.
When? You don't remember? So bad.
Oh, you're terrible.
So bad. But now I watch Sophia, and I'm like, she says way worse things to her own daughter, so I could do it to my mother.
Very true.
But one of the other things that can happen too is vaginal dryness.
Yes.
Did that happen for you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do jokes about it, so.
You can do them.
Well, the setup joke is every time I sneeze, I pee. In fact, that's the only time I get wet is when I'm sneezing on myself. My husband wants to get me in the mood. He throws pepper in my face. So that's the trifecta joke. But yeah, no, that's always been. So I always have lube next to the bed. Mm-hmm. And just, it's funny because we did this thing yesterday. They were discussing, and all the different types of like flowery and this and that. I'm basically like, we're about to whatever. I'm like, oh, hold on. And just, that was me putting lube up my twat, just in case you didn't understand that verbal thing. But to me, like,
Foley work.
But it's just so funny because it's like, it doesn't have to have packaging. I know what it is. Oh, this is going to make me wet so he can put his dick in me.
Yeah. But it also, do you use lube to masturbate now too?
No.
Interesting.
Because I finally found out that I love having sex with my husband, but I don't have to do dry humping. I was like, oh, if I just touch that, oh, okay.
Right. And the clit doesn't have to be wet.
Just sometimes maybe a wet washcloth. So this way I'm clean when I'm done.
Really?
Yes.
That's so cute. I'm still learning so many things.
But I'm also like, I have to say this is, I'm like a male comic. Because as soon as when a guy goes on the road, the first thing he does is jerk off. Mm-hmm. So I do that too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I've got a nice clean hotel bed. Yeah. I'm just going to dirty it up.
Yeah. I took Bobby Elfie on the road with me in Virginia a few weeks ago, and she said, she was like, hey, if you need to masturbate, like I can leave the room, because we were sharing the room. And I was like, I haven't come in months, so you are actually safe from that right now. But thank you so much for offering it up. And do you do it from stress, or you do it as a release, or it's like you're just horny all the time?
Oh, no, I'm not horny all the time.
Okay.
I just usually, well, because first of all, so I live with my husband, but I also live with my mother-in-law. We take care of her. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of boundaries.
Yeah.
There's we finally had to put a lock on our bedroom door because she would knock in as she was opening it. So when I go to,
I said, that's what my dad does. It's a problem here.
So so when I get to a hotel room, I'm like, and it puts me to sleep. I usually do it in the afternoon. We have, I don't know if the younger comics do this, but we all, the older comedians always talk about comedians nap time.
Oh, of course.
Okay. So between 4 and 6. Yeah. And if I have a show at 8, I'm going to be napping. It puts me, literally, I do it. I go right to sleep.
Before you texted me that you were going to be here in 10 minutes, I go, maybe she forgot and I can do nap time early.
Oh, that's hysterical. Yes. Oh, good. I'm glad the tradition is keeping
still
on.
alive. Okay. So when you were going through menopause, hot flashes all the time. Yeah. What are they like?
The stuff I get now, I don't think are. I mean, I think they're nowhere near as bad as they were. But it feels like your whole body. It feels like it starts, and you just feel it getting warmer, and like, and you're just
It's like a computer that's overloaded.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I remember doing a gig one time. We were out we were doing military bases in Alaska,
Ooh.
and it was literally like minus 30, and I walked out without a jacket because I was so fucking hot. Mm-hmm. I was just so like, and they're like, Carole, you're gonna freeze to death. I don't care.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently hot flashes can last for years after menopause.
Yep.
Which is exciting.
Yep.
Your face and neck may become flushed. Red blotches may appear on your chest, back, and arms. Heavy sweating and cold shivering can follow. And hot flashes can be very mild or strong enough to wake you up, called night sweats. Most hot flashes last between 30 seconds and 10 minutes, and they can happen several times an hour, a few times a day, or just once or twice a week.
Yeah. Well, when I every so often, if I have red wine,
Oh yeah.
all of a sudden it's just like I'm burning up. I'm burning up. And what's funny is my mother-in-law, because she's 86, she's always cold. So all we do is I open the window, she closes the window.
Yeah.
I open it's.
No, my dad comes into my room. I keep it at 68, and he always goes, "It's so cold." And I'm like, Dad, I'm on SSRIs. Like, I've sweat through so many sheets this week. Please just leave.
How old is your dad?
70.
Yeah,
70.
Because he's 5 years older than me.
Yeah. Okay, there's also bladder control. A loss of bladder control called incontinence may happen. You may have a sudden urge to urinate, or urine may leak during exercise, sneezing, or laughing. We discussed this. Did that happen pre-menopause or during?
I started not just leaking oil. I started leaking pee. I want to say I can pretty much put it down. So I've been back from New York for 17 years. So that would mean I was 40. Oh, I have to do math now. 48? Yeah. So when I was working in my last show in Vegas, I used to have to like wear a pad, because if I'm on stage and all of a sudden I have to pee, it's not.
You don't want a Fergie moment.
Yes, exactly. So yeah. So I would say that it happened. Yeah, when I was in my 40s.
And are there special pads for pee, or do you use
it's just like
pads?
it's like it depends. But now they
make a pad version.
They make a pad version called Poise.
Oh right, Poise. I think Lisa Rinna did ads for Poise.
Right. So for Poise, and then they really tried to. This is so funny with Poise, especially that for a while there they were making Poise pads that were like thongs. I'm like.
Hilarious.
Peeing is not sexy. I'm sorry. And also because I had the kid. My doctor didn't do a good job sewing me up.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that also was something.
Kid had a big head.
He
owes you.
Head, like,
yeah.
Yeah. So I tell him, don't worry. I let him know all the time. You ruined my body.
Did it get ripped to the butt?
Halfway.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't but still, that's...
Yeah, it's still a big recovery and a big difference.
And when it's so funny talking about this stuff because people don't realize what you do, what happens. I mean, all this stuff about being fertile and they're the one carrying the baby. Yeah. And then, okay, now we've had the baby and our body is shit. And now you're giving us more grief because why aren't you ready to have sex? My husband was terrified. He was so afraid to have sex with me and I was like, I had to heal, but, and then a lot of women are like, because they say 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I thought it was 12. Because there's a lot of resentment.
There's stories about doctors that will put in like an extra stitch to make you tighter for the penis pleasure.
My husband said he said that as a joke. He goes, if I give you like $25, and they were joking. They were totally joking. Right. But no, there are actually people
that are horrifying.
Yeah. That will say, it's got to look better. It's got to be. And, I will say this in defense of men. When you see the woman you love, and he watched my son be born, that alone has got to be horrifying. The joke I used to, after my husband saw my son come out, he goes, well, licking pussy's out of the question ever again.
But it was a joke.
It was a joke. Yes.
Will he still?
Yes.
Amazing. But it's nice to hear too, just because it could seem like they would fall by the wayside. But not if you actually still love the person.
Yes.
Right. So I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's just so normal to like stop doing foreplay and stop doing oral, and oral is part of sex to begin with. But if those things are slipping, like it's not just like, oh yeah, well, we're getting older and this is what happens.
Right.
A lot of people are still very active. A lot of people are still going down on each other, eating butt.
Okay, but the eating butt, I don't understand. I'm sorry. I'm not a butt eater. I'm
That's
sorry.
fine.
I just don't get that.
That's
I know that's
fine. I just have a family member of mine that is very actively having their butt eaten in old age, and
Wow.
good for them.
Wow, that's you. Now you're blowing my mind. I mean, you know, but like I do know that. I mean, and I'm sure you know about this. But like in senior citizens
Homes, there's
in the
so
homes.
many STIs.
Yeah,
because they're all just banging.
they're banging the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Which
So
is-
if you're not being banged, it's not just because, oh, we're old, we're over the hill, like it's dried up. It's like, no, you have a conversation.
Yeah.
There's more stuff you could be doing. Sleep is also affected during
Oh, yeah.
menopause. A lot of people have trouble getting a good night's sleep. Maybe you can't fall asleep easily, or you wake too early. Night sweats also might wake you up. And if you wake up during the night, you might have trouble falling back to sleep. Did all of that happen to you?
Still happening.
Still happening.
I mean, I think
That's why you need to nap all the time.
that's why I need to nap.
Yeah.
So I need to masturbate, then go to sleep. But I also think that, you know, once you have a child, at least in my, just from what I am, I don't sleep because I have a child. And then
You're just worried.
Huh?
You're worried.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 31 years old. He's a grown man.
Yeah.
But the way I go to sleep every night, if I start to go spin down that spiral, is I look on Instagram. If I see the little green dot, I know he's okay. I know it's so stupid.
Make him share location with you.
Yeah, I know I should do that, but he'll kill me if I do that.
No, I share it with my dad just
you do?
because
Yeah,
I know that he loses his mind.
Yeah.
And my mom, when my brother was about to have his first child, he called my mom at like 4 a.m. being like, Mom, I'm so nervous. I don't know. Like, when does this end? She goes, Jason, you're 36 years old. You're still calling me. It doesn't end.
It never ends. I would kill for good sleep.
Do you dream a lot?
No.
That's so nice. I dream constantly and I
Really?
wake up exhausted.
Wow.
It sucks. Anyway,
No, but you know what? I'm like, I think from everything we're talking, I'm a very matter of fact person. I come fast. I don't drink.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have things to do.
yeah.
I don't have time to do all of it's, you know, I've learned, like when I do go into, like I said, those spirals, I try to cut it off really fast, you know?
Just back to hot flashes for a second. Things that can help avoiding triggers: consuming alcohol or caffeine, eating spicy food, feeling stressed. Hilarious. Avoid feeling stressed. Being somewhere hot. Smoking may make hot flashes worse.
Yeah.
And some techniques that you can use are dress in layers to help with hot flashes. So you can use a fan in your home or office space, and doing breathing exercises during a hot flash to minimize it.
None of that is true. Honestly, you just have to, when it happens, you just go, okay. And you just have to sit there and you have to just let it happen, you know? And if you're living with somebody, hopefully your partner doesn't mind having the windows open
Yeah.
when it's 20 degrees out.
Yeah. And have 2 different blankets.
Oh, I found a blanket for I don't know. Do you know Vicky Cooperman? I think you know. Okay. She's
But her name sounds really familiar.
She's a comedian, and I was taking care of her apartment one night, and I was under her blanket, and I went, "What is?" And so I texted her, and it's from a company called Rest, and it's a cooling blanket.
Ooh.
It is. I've never ever done this. I went, "What's the company?" I looked at it. It was pretty expensive, and I bought it
Amazing.
while I was at her house.
Yeah.
because I never do stuff like that, and this is the greatest blanket for hot flashes. It's the greatest.
Ooh.
You should try it.
Yeah. I'll link it below. Okay. Other things. Menopause can affect bone health. The decline in estrogen production can affect the amount of calcium in your bones. This can cause significant decreases in bone density, leading to a condition known as osteoporosis. I've been scared of osteoporosis since I was born. It can also make you more susceptible to hip, spine, and other bone fractures. Many people experience accelerated bone loss in the first few years after their last menstrual period. So, to keep your bones healthy, eat foods with lots of calcium, such as dairy products or dark leafy greens. Take vitamin D supplements. We love the D.
We love the D.
Exercise regularly and include weight training in your exercise routine. I'm starting that now because I know my bones are weak. Reduce alcohol consumption. Avoid smoking. And there are also prescription medications you may want to discuss with your doctor. Heart disease can be related to menopause. There are conditions related to your heart that may arise, such as dizziness or cardiac palpitations. Decreased estrogen levels can prevent your body from retaining flexible arteries. This can impact blood flow. They say eating a healthy and balanced diet, exercising, and not smoke. Stop telling us to stop smoking. I already did.
But you know what? Honestly, honey, smoking is terrible.
I know.
My mother-in-law smoked for 60 years.
Yeah.
And she had 4 strokes.
Oh.
And she's fine now.
Really?
But, yeah, I mean, you know, when I went to, after she had them, we had gone to the doctor, she had blood taken out. I'd never seen blood come out. It looked like molasses.
But she was smoking cigarettes, right?
Cigarettes.
Yeah, I was smoking weed.
Yeah, but weed's fine.
It's the same. Oh.
I don't think so. I think weed is fine. I'm not a doctor, ladies and gentlemen.
When I would look at like the bong residue or like peace residue after, and I would just be like, ooh, that's on the inside of my lungs. Like, it can't be great, but it's definitely less bad than
but the stuff that's in cigarettes is there's chemicals. Weed is, for the most part, unless it's doused with fentanyl. Don't take fentanyl.
Nope.
Okay. I've never thought of weed as smoking. To
Okay.
me, you know, so that should make you feel better.
It does. Dr. Carole.
Dr. Carole. I play a doctor on TV. I am not a real doctor.
Did you play a doctor?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
Just in case anybody calls.
I don't know.
Why
You got
did
a lot
she
of
say
credits.
It's weed.
Could have been a doctor once on General Hospital.
Oh my God.
Something like that. We talked about hormone replacement. Is it safe for management of menopausal problems? Several hormone therapies are FDA approved for treatment of hot flashes and prevention of bone loss. The benefits and risks vary depending on the severity of your hot flashes and bone loss and your health. All these things are like, talk to your goddamn doctor, because people are like, am I going to have menopause the same as my sister? Am I going to have it the same as my mother or any other friends? It's like, it varies person to person. Definitely go to the doctor, and if something feels really wrong, have it checked out.
Yeah.
Ask for pills if you feel you need them, or just push through and
just push through like I did. All right. But I will tell you this, as far as the doctors are concerned, like that the doctor that said I was leaking oil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you have to find a good doctor. And
Exactly.
it should be a female doctor.
Yeah.
And because my GP now is a great young guy, but yeah, he's probably in his 40s, but he's young to me, and I love him, and he's really good, and so I can, you know, he isn't the typical male doctor.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I can't tell you how many women go to doctors and they go, "Oh, it's just menopause.
Totally.
Oh, it's just this," and
it's just weight without taking any bloods.
right,
Yeah.
right. So one of the things that women are afraid to do in general, I think, is ask. Because we're always afraid we're going to get in trouble. Because we are taught to, you know, just, you know, keep your head down, do the status quo, don't ask, don't make waves, don't be pushy, don't be loud. And the fact is, it's your fucking body.
Yeah. And you have to advocate for yourself. And also, if you feel like a doctor is like a little icky or they're not listening to you, like, go get a second opinion.
Absolutely.
Like, I've had so many experiences where like one person, I'm just like, I don't know if I trust what you said because I don't like how you treated me.
Right.
And
No,
that's
I mean,
fine.
and the other thing is in my generation grew up that doctors, you listen to whatever the doctor said. And you know what? I can tell you from, you know, dealing with my mother-in-law, there are bad doctors out there. Do you know what I mean? There are doctors that I think parents paid for their diploma, and they're not really know what the hell my mother-in-law, and this is actually in the same.
Yeah.
I think this is important for the audience since we're talking about older women. So when my mother-in-law, she went in to get a valve replacement for her heart, and the surgery went well. She fell. They dropped her. Whatever happened. So she broke her hip. They had to fix her hip. So she was going through rehab, and all of a sudden I didn't even find this out until we got to the hospital. But anyway, she had some kind of an episode. And they didn't know if it was a stroke. She just stopped. She was lifting her legs and she just froze. So long story short, they were taking tests. I mean, she was in a coma. She had a UTI.
Oh my God.
So this is important for the people who are listening.
Yeah.
In elderly, not like if I had it, I could still,
Yeah.
but in people over like 80, a UTI mimics a stroke.
Wow.
And people don't know that. If I tell you the doctors had no idea, and then there was a young woman who was an intern, because they intern, and she said, like a week later, she said, I went and had it. We figured it out. It's a UTI, and it was because she went. I bet you it's a UTI, and they started her antibiotics and came back to life like that. That's
wild.
So that's why. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with the medical community because I've seen what they do, and you talk about advocating for yourself. If she hadn't had me, because I'm that woman, I think I'm probably the original Karen. Do you know what I mean? Because I do not take no for an
People
answer.
are just pronouncing Carole wrong.
Right, exactly. But I'm a good Karen, so people understand.
Not a racist Karen.
No, I'm not racist. I'm not a racist Karen. But it's important that you have to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we went into the hospital that night, nobody had told us that she was there, and she was in a coma, and I was like, what just happened? So you must advocate for yourself in anything, especially for women.
Yeah, and advocate for the other people in your life.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, here are some facts about menopause. Depression can be a big problem during menopause. The Office for National Statistics reported in 2017 that women ages 50 to 54 are more likely than any other female group to commit suicide. Incidentally, the average for a British woman to enter menopause is 51, average age. And evidence suggests that depression during menopause can present differently in comparison to other depressive disorders. Some argue that because medical treatments for depression have been trialed with typical, quote unquote, typical representations of the illness in mind, usual therapies may not be as effective for menopause-related depression. So again, go in and talk to your doctor again if you're having a bigger depression than you're accustomed to. Menopause can be confused with other health conditions. More than 30 different symptoms have been associated with menopause, and women will experience an average of 8 concurrent symptoms. Therefore, it's not surprising that misdiagnosis is common during menopause, as many symptoms are characteristic of other common conditions, including thyroid disorders and clinical depression. In a survey commissioned by the Health and Her of 1,000 women between the ages 45 and 60, 70% admitted to experiencing perimenopausal symptoms in their 30s and 40s, but 90% failed to recognize the immediate link to their fluctuating hormones and instead attributed symptoms to aging, stress, anxiety, and depression. So apparently you can get perimenopausal symptoms in your 30s. Interesting. Might have to go to one of my doctors. Treating menopausal symptoms can be tricky. The frontline medication for menopause is HRT, and it has a controversial history as 2 highly publicized studies concluded that it can increase the risk of developing cancer and other health problems. These studies have since been criticized for a number of limitations, but many health professionals and patients still regard HRT with caution, and there's been a substantial decrease in the number of filled prescriptions, especially if you have a history of cancer in your family.
But it definitely has changed because everyone's talking about it. Like I've done a bunch of menopause seminars,
panels,
where I'm around talking with other experts on menopause, and a lot of women have taken it. A lot of women take it because, on the pro side, all the symptoms go away because you've got estrogen back in your body. Your skin looks good. You're back to feeling somewhat normal, if that's considered. Like the one thing that I really hate about it is my skin is not. It's just not as
Elastic.
Elastic. It's not.
Well, it looks
I know. I look
pretty good.
I know. But
It's how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. And I can imagine if somebody has transitioned and is on testosterone, they wouldn't want to go on HRT. But I'll have to ask a doctor about that because I am not sure what menopause is like in trans men or non-binary people on testosterone. Menopause isn't all bad. And this is something that we've discussed before, I think with Candace Bushnell. She said menopause was like a release for her from the cycle and it just made her feel way better. Not all people suffer during menopause, and some report big improvements. Menopause marks the end of periods, which also means the end of PMS and worries about getting pregnant. Painful conditions such as endometriosis and fibroids can also improve and often resolve after menopause. Many women also report feelings of empowerment and confidence after menopause, as often this event coincides with greater financial stability and being at the peak of their careers.
Talking about all this is like I just remember having a period every month and not want, I talk about this on stage. I want to have a child when I wanted to have a child. I don't want to have to worry.
Yeah.
I was on the pill for like 3 months and I went, I cannot do this because it drove me crazy. And my husband he hated condoms. So there was a lot of shit on my face because he'd pull out. Do you know what I mean? But the not worrying about that stuff.
Such a release.
It really, it's just like, I don't have to ever, I say it on set, I can fuck with abandon now.
Yeah.
But like I used to say this to my son, I said, I used to tell him use birth control because when he was young, because once you have a child, that's it pretty much. Now you've got 18 years of responsibility. So
they're calling you when they're 36 and about to have their first child.
Right. Yeah. But as a young woman, when you're having sex, it is in the back of your head, even if you're on birth control.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Just think about the fact that you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. The final fact I have here about menopause is only 5 animals on the planet are known to experience menopause. Just 5. How special are we? This list includes humans, killer whales, pilot whales, beluga whales, and narwhals. We're whales.
Wow. Wow. Whoever made the universe, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, because we don't feel bloated enough when we're going through menopause. Now we're whales. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Take care of yourself. Have a nice little nap today. I know I'm going to.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
So much fun. Carole, I have to ask, first, where can everybody find you online?
Oh, well, I finally joined TikTok.
Oh, hell yeah.
I know, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Life after menopause is exciting.
It's exciting. I'm doing TikTok. But, you can, Carole Montgomery comic is where I am on Instagram, and Facebook is Carole Montgomery. Funny Women of a Certain Age.com. You can find everything out. The specials, I think the first special is no longer on the air, but the second and the third specials are.
Nice.
You can always stream them. And come see a live show because we're starting to tour again. There are women from the specials. There are some women that are not on the special but are amazing comics. But I have to tell you this, you'll love this.
Yeah.
So many people after Fran did the special, they were like, "Oh, we want to get Fran on the show." I said, "Okay, Fran's being the president of SAG, and
good luck."
She's busy being the president of SAG and trying to get us rights.
Yeah.
So no, that's not going to happen.
Nope.
But it is funny because I'm so proud of her because I love that she's become this powerhouse.
We needed her.
So proud of her. But it is funny. People are like, "Can we get Fran Drescher?" I went, No.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You don't even know how lucky
Oh, no,
you are.
I was saying you, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, me too.
But you did too.
But this is all pre-strike. And maybe when it's done, she'll return to the stage. But it's great seeing women of a certain age performing. It's great seeing a women of a certain age in the audience. I know when I did my first bar show, my most recurring audience members were older women.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you're doing well when older women like you.
Oh, absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
That's the biggest compliment to me. I have to ask you this question after a sexual experience, which this has been. Carole Montgomery, did you finish?
I did.
Oh, good.
But it took too long.
I know. I'm so sorry, but thank you for coming.
I had a great time. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on How Come.
Bye.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
So you just never lost your orgasms through pregnancy, through menopause. I don't know how relatable this episode will be, but it might be calming for some people that you might just never lose them.
Right.
You might just experience a little dryness.
Well, we need to talk about you and your dry spell.
My
speaking
little
of
dry
dryness.
spell. Yeah. So my sister gave me an assignment last week. Basically, I was saying how my sex toys are always at an arm's length. Like I have gotten as addicted to sex toys as I did to weed. Where
Really?
I'll just keep it in my bed with me and I will masturbate whether I'm bored, whether I'm procrastinating, like just to whatever. And I do think that desexualized like I wasn't waiting until I was horny.
Okay.
So my sister told me to just hold off on that for 2 weeks, put them in the drawer. Don't take them to Ben's house when I travel there. Just kind of like either sit in the horniness or like try something else, but just no toys, no nothing.
Right.
I made it 10 days. It was supposed to be 14. But then there was just something, I think in Golden Palace that Blanche was just talking about. Like she goes on these tangents of like, men with their rippling muscles and their abs and their whatever, like just describing something. And I was like, ooh. And I was like, like now is as good of a time as any. So I reached for the toy. I tried it for a little bit and it wasn't like a full orgasm like I'm used to. It wasn't like I didn't reach a release, but I did have that like, and there's a thing that happens with me that if I am really turned on, I will like open my mouth involuntarily and like kind of stick my tongue out. And I noticed that was happening.
Oh, well, that's good.
So that I feel like that's on the right track of like, I just need to, again, disassociate it from boredom and procrastinating and have it just be like, all right, it's a really sexy moment and I can capitalize on it.
So with the toys, do you come with the toys?
I was for like 5 years.
Okay. And then?
And I was able to have multiple orgasms and I was able to do it multiple times a day. And yeah, now like this last one, I don't think it was a full, but it was getting there. And it did feel like a certain release, which was nice.
Yeah.
And I just liked the fact that I was in the mood.
Right.
And that I was like, this is going to be helping a problem that it was intended for.
Right. But like, but if you're, but what I'm saying is if you're using the toy and you're not coming, what's the point of using the toy?
Because it still gets me to a place that I couldn't.
Okay.
I did try some hand stuff.
Right.
But I don't know. The friction.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe you need some of that focus group lube.
Maybe I do. I do have good lube. Unfortunately, my favorite lube company just like went out of business. RIP Lady Sweet. But yeah, I'll check in on the focus group lube. But what do you think? Do you have an assignment for me for next episode?
So my assignment for you is I want you to relax. And yes, I know everyone tells you to relax and that's how you'll get it. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to lay in your bed. I want you to start to meditate. Take a couple of big, deep breaths. And then I want you picturing yourself by the ocean. And the waves are crashing. And there's a beautiful sunset. And then there's a beautiful person, whoever your crush is, walking towards you, but you're still hearing the waves and you're still seeing the sunset, and this beautiful person is coming over to you, and that should do it.
Okay, that sounds fun. I could do that. I will try that. I do want to go to my gynecologist again and like see if there's anything hormonally wrong or going on with me.
Okay.
Because that would be interesting too. So 2 assignments for anybody who's following along. 1, lay in bed and picture someone really sexy walking towards you. And 2, go to your doctor and make sure it's a doctor that you trust. I love mine. That's it. And thank you to everybody who subscribed on patreon.com/howcome. If you want to listen to episodes ad-free, that's where you can do it, and early. How fun is that? Carole liked to come before her dates. Patreon, it's like coming before it actually hits the feed. Fun. Oh, and one more thing. Speaking of fun, I posted that I was done with Golden Girls and Golden Palace, and I was like, what should I watch next? And then the Instagram algorithm was like Golden Bachelor, which is the first Bachelor. He's 70 years old, and all of the women are in their 60s and 70s that he's dating. And it's amazing. Like in the context of this episode too, it's like they are still so horny, and they're kissing already. Episode 1, I'm really liking it. And then a friend of mine, shout out to Lauren Hope Crass, sent me this thing from the New York Times that was like one of the producers of Golden Bachelor rewatched Golden Girls because they were like, what if conversation lags? They wanted inspiration for what they could tell people what to talk about. It's all golden. I love it. Such a fun fact.